Power Rangers. Fantasy Force. Chapter 1. A family drives along a shaded road, the mother chatting away happily while the father drives focused more on the radio than his lovely wife. In the back sit Mandy and Jason Mason, a brother and sister pair melancholically preparing to enjoy a camping session of mother and father's design. Jason, a quiet 8-year-old, sits tapping away at his Game Boy. A game of Pokemon statically chimes repetitive tunes into his head. Mandy, a young lady of 16, sits sulkily against the window of the family's wagon. She is on her iPod listening to some rock and roll. Mandy gently caresses the family's new puppy. The puppy, a floppy and soft recent addition to the family, has unceremoniously been named Doggy Donnie Mason not long before this point in the trip, but only after a lengthy disagreement between the Mason family, where only the middle ground could be met. That middle name Donnie is seemingly a soft attempt at levity by the Masons after a harrowing discussion where each member of the family fought vigorously for their name choice to win out. In the end, no member of the family could have their way, but all could agree Doggy's last name would obviously be Mason, which made Doggy glad. However, now it seems after Doggy's christening brought a healthy chuckle out of the Mason family, a lengthy drive to the cloudy coast has drained all but Mother Mason's mouth. That is until a shady specter dashes its way across the road, forcing an inattentive Father Mason to swerve cruelly off the bumpy road and over a guardrail, careening the Mason family into the wooded forest below. Somewhere else, in a camper fit for a king, Trixie True changes into her brand new pitch black swimsuit. The crisp morning air, the golden sunlight, and the fulfilling taste of the best stop in the nature reserve for a weekend of fun with her parents all energized Trixie, forcing a deep relaxed full stretch out of her body. She steps out of the camper with a towel draped in her arms. As she walks, Trixie makes note of her mother who sits over a fire and stirs something in her pot. Trixie thinks she'll eagerly await whatever her breakfast will be today. She passes her father, who from the moment they make it out to the sunny coast of the ironically named Cloudy Coast City still sits in his deluxe relaxation super lounge chair without a care in the world. Trixie makes her way a few paces further to the clear coastal waters. The gentle transition from grass to sand catches Trixie's footprints as she drops her towel and wades into the waters. After a relaxing while of sunbeams warming her face, Trixie floats on her back in the water, letting the breeze vibe her form along. She lets herself sink into the water, letting the cool, refreshing feel wash over her, but suddenly Trixie feels a deep somberness creep in and she quickly breaks up and surfaces. Something is not as it seems. In another part of the reserve, a big and rambunctious family of cousins and aunts and other miscellaneous family ties float in a grand unit of inter tubes. Some of the tubes include coolers of drinks, other snacks and radios, and almost everyone happily floats while clutching an untied tube or the tube of a family member close by. All but Connolly, uncomfortable in her one piece and glasses which she secured with a pull strap to her face, her braces out against her tightly closed lips. All she wants is to float to the coast where her family's rental plot for the weekend is and she can get back to her hopes of running into her group of friends from who she had heard would also be in the cloudy coastal area these last summer days. However, the O'McElhenney clan pressure Connolly to remain in the moment and enjoy the float. Connolly reflects for a second as she forgets to hold firm to her large cousin's tube. Suddenly she has seemingly floated down a fork in the water, somehow instantly losing sight of anyone else. The quietness of her sudden situation makes itself known. How had Connolly so thoroughly gotten lost? Was it just her sullen luck? As she further trifles and thought, Connolly floats. Even the glow of the day has seemingly abandoned her. Perhaps hours have passed as our scene cuts to a fallen leaf-covered forest floor. Mandy Mason groggily regains consciousness. Her over flannel is subtly ripped at the shoulder. As she sits herself up, a terrible feeling instantly floods Mandy's nerves. Where is the car? Where is the crash? Where is the sunlight? Jason Mason watches his sister rise, looking around confused as he calmly saves his game with an echoing ding. He feels lucky that his Game Boy survived the accident, but his mother and father are nowhere to be seen. Before he powers the game off, the time reads 4:15 p.m. With a slight fear in his heart at the unsure situation, Jason remains huddled under a tree trunk, happy that at least his sister is finally awake. To the side, Doggy quietly gnaws at what looks like some sort of thick belt buckle on the forest floor. Oddly, Jason notices that the gold of the belt buckle is all the color he sees in the bushel of leaves it rests upon. Weird. Oh my gosh, Jason, are you alright? Exclaims Mandy as her voice finally catches up to her. I'm okay, Jason manages to get out as he notices the deep crimson redness of his sister's tank top under her flannel. It was white at the start of the day and it was white before they had woken up on this forest floor. Noticing her brother's look of terror, Mandy looks down and the first thing she thinks is blood. She grasps at her belly and body, checking for cuts or wounds, but it's nothing. It seems as Mandy's shirt has simply changed colors of its own accord. As she makes a humble peace with this anomaly, Mandy notices that her brother's hoodie, which at the offset of the trip was a maroon zip-up, is now a soldier's green. Jason follows his sister's eyes to himself and his quiet shock grows even more disturbed as they both look on with jaws dropped in mutual distress at this new thing that resembles a belt buckle upon their arms. Trixie catches her breath after breaking the surface of the water and she quickly stumbles back onto the beach. The somber feeling she had moments ago only intensifies on land as she is now unexpectedly alone. She could not have floated too far off in that short amount of time. Her eyes were closed, but it looks as if she is in an entirely different part of the woods. Her mom, her dad, and even the massive camper are nowhere to be seen, so Trixie starts to panic. She doesn't know many things about camping, but she knows for damn sure she won't do it by herself. Nor does she want to, Trixie decides, as she suddenly breaks into a sprint into the thicket of woods. Her fight or flight response kicks in intensely and Trixie dashes. Part of her thinks that she could probably catch her parents if they haven't made it too far from here. But a more honest part of her knows she's just running as to not remain still in that gray clearing where the sky seems so much further away and darker. Bad dark, as if a thunderstorm was brewing, colorless, and Trixie feels as if she is just a rabbit with no hole to hide in. Trixie dashes faster and faster, jumping logs and ducking branches as tears bubble in the corners of her eyes. All the while she is horrifically concerned with the fact that her bathing suit is now a solid sunflower yellow. But before she can swallow the strange change, she trips and slides painfully across the muddy leaves and needs to take a moment to lay in her misery. Trixie is all alone in the scary forest and now it seems like she'll need to find her own way home. As she lifts herself from the mud, her knee is bloody, but more concerningly a murky figure twitches its way out of the forest's gray tree line closer and closer to Trixie at a slow and menacing pace. The creature howls a long and gurgling moan, as would a person in deep pain, but this figure is clearly a danger of some sort, so Trixie fearfully turns tail and runs in a random direction. Trixie thinks to herself that she has virtually nothing to defend herself with except her little yellow bathing suit and this new device on her wrist that she is only now noticing. Unfortunately, Trixie can spare none of these snowballing details a second of time as the number of figures coming into sight as Trixie runs is like something out of a horror movie. Dozens come into view. Trixie screams as she runs out of breath but catches a glimmer of hope as she sees a nerdy timid girl pulling herself out of the rushing waters. The bright azure blue of her bathing suit draws Trixie in. She runs headfirst into this girl, shoving her back into the inner tube she had just been exiting and jumps on herself. The blue one-piece wearing nerdy girl squeaks out a yell before Trixie pushes them both off quickly once more onto the lazy river rush and away from this section of the dark forest, and just like that the figures surrender their chase. Maddie yanks Jason by the arm while tightly clutching Doggy once more. However, this time Maddie can't do either, very gently as she rushes them through the foggy trees. Maddie is terrified of these guys chasing, stumbling out of the gray background. They look like something between clay and coal sludge, twitching creepily and reaching out at Maddie and her little brother with grubby, dirty hands. Maddie can't let her fear gain weight. She thinks as she knows she is the only thing her little brother can count on right now with her mom and dad dead. No. Maddie lets the fact she couldn't see a cliff or hill anywhere near where they will comfort her, as she also thinks there is a small chance that her parents could be fine. She only needs to keep her brother and puppy okay until they or anybody can send help for them. She tugs her brother, who barely keeps up, as Maddie now thinks about who that could have possibly been that led those creatures to them. With a hint of anger, Maddie steadily pulls her brother over, narrowing in the river to avoid an amassing of the sludge men just a ways up. As she makes it across, Maddie thinks she hears a splashing and quick yell that is different from the girl that was running or the guys chasing. Another girl, probably her age, yelled. There are at least 2 other girls in these woods apart from herself and Jason that obviously aren't with the dangers in the forest. However, as she makes up her mind to try and group up with them for better survival chances, Maddie looks up and her brother come face to face with a woman whose sight chills their bones. Standing around a foot taller than Maddie was a woman with fair porcelain skin. Her hair was a blackened brunette that hugged her head fashionably. She seemed out of place in this forest, as if her total form radiated an aura of displacement. She felt wrong, and if Maddie and Jason weren't crazy, it seemed like she gave off more color than anything in this forest except for the sibling pair's tops and wrist buckles. Besides her general vibe, or even odder still, was this woman's attire. She looked like she came off the Mayflower, but her clothes were also elegant, like a lot of work went into making them. Strangest yet was this woman's hat. It was huge, like a sun hat crossed with a traffic cone. It looked like it was made of some heavy material between felt and leather, maybe some sort of animal. But all in all, this woman seemed menacing. Her uninviting expression gave off a hint of bother. It seemed like this was a sort of chore to her. A witch. Both Maddie and Jason let out in a stupor as they unwittingly put together why this big-headed woman feels so menacing simply standing there. The woman, who wears a frilled white cottage dress, speaks. My name is Syndula, the witch of these wide woods. And as you will come to see, you have been chosen by my darkened grid for a greater purpose. You shall be fed to the battery of my dark lord. You shall power the bargain to break the pandemonium free from this purgorial realm. So be precious little children and succumb irresistibly, and perchance there will be no pain in the darkness. Huh. Maddie is dumbstruck by this crazy lady and scrunches her face in disbelief, but when she turns to lock eyes with her brother Jason, she sees a hint of something else there. It's like he's put something together in his head about their situation, but Maddie doesn't see it yet. This woman, Syndula, raises a glowing aura from her hand. The other hand, holding a staff that glows, at the same moment then launches a fiery projectile. The pair only seconds before catch on, and Maddie manages to throw them out of the way with no moment to spare. The loud light show blows a small crater in the spot Maddie just barely pulled them out of, and suddenly things become very real. Maddie realizes now that her life and that of her brothers are actively in danger. The Masons are not simply lost anymore, their lives are being threatened. Huddled behind the thick tree trunk where she hides Jason and Dottie for the moment, Maddie balls up and squeezes her eyes shut. She can feel the heart rates of Dottie and Jason as they all hear the crunching leaves of Syndula's slow approach. An assassin in the woods whose silenced gun pillow is a fireball spell behaving like a grenade. What a thoughtful Maddie thinks. Maddie ekes out 2 fast teardrops as she rallies her strength in the hope of giving her brother a chance to flee with her next move. But just as Maddie's mind is made up to spring into action, the shivering puppy trembles triumphantly and starts to shine with a very black neon glow. A click off of the device Dottie had in its mouth rings out, and with a yap of bravery the brilliant light show envelopes little Dottie, shockingly transforming his small puppy silhouette into that of a young man around Maddie's height. When the shine clears, standing protectively over the Mason kids is a cybernetic-looking guy with what looks like a fitted motorcycle helmet in the motif of a bull. The figure's spandex and armor is all black, except for the gold of the horns and belt. The figure utters no words as it takes a defensive stance against Syndula. In its little mind, Dottie just perceived an action-packed transformation scene with music and guitar riffs like on one of Jason Mason's Saturday morning TV shows for little kids and puppies. Rough. Says Puppy as he thinks. Amazing. With a chuckle, Syndula lowers her staff but raises a fist. You children are more cowards than I could have hoped for, to let this simple beast stand for you in battle. Syndula shouts towards the Mason kids. And the power of the Minotaur Ranger was foolish to claim its champion as an infant mongrel. Syndula spits at the black individual, who if her words ring true is the puppy Dottie himself. However, it seems that in this new form Dottie is unshakable as he stares down Syndula with his fists raised in stoic silence. A moment passes between the two combatants, but too quickly the moment is broken as at the sound of a deep wolfing bark, the Masons break for it, dashing down the forest following the river's edge. Black Ranger, Dottie Donnie Mason, and Syndula, the witch of the wide woods, clash running straight into one another with thunderous booms. As each contacting punch smashes across them, some sort of defensive aura emanates from the combatant, leaving them unshaken but somehow viciously more in danger as the aura shakes tediously around them as the volleys drag on. Dottie feels a mix of emotion as his haymakers ricochet off Syndula's chest and head, and really anywhere else Dottie can land a punch. Dottie can feel that the strength of his new arms is not weak, but even with all his raw power he can't land a satisfying hit on the woman. It's like nipping at the water from a sink. You can splash it but you didn't really hurt it. GRR, rumbles the puppy as he jumps back, letting the volley of punches subside. Dottie takes a low and menacing stance. Thinking fresh thoughts, Dottie realizes that at the least the Masons seem to have been able to flee, using the opening he made for them. Dottie doesn't know the boy and the girl very well, but in his short time together with them he has felt more warmth and comfort than he has ever known. So Dottie feels a sort of gladness at what little he was able to provide for the Masons while he knew them. Woof, says the Black Minotaur Ranger. As he thinks. I'll go down swinging. Suddenly ripping out of the black mist forms an axe of black with silver trimming, cartoonishly big amidst Dottie, but as menacing as a bull. Syndula is harsh-faced but nonetheless calm. She looks at the axe and then at the Black Ranger's visor, and returns a frown. Her young face, Dottie notices, seems tired. Syndula runs. Gur gives Dottie in reply with a backstab. Syndula books it into a tree or something, Dottie thinks, because Dottie had lost sight of her after she ran past and behind one. Nonetheless, Dottie thinks. As he breaks into a jog toward the coastline because from what he's hearing. And his ears are rather big for his dog body. It sounds like the kids who are not Mandy or Jason Mason have just come across something scary too, and he decided rather quickly if kids are in trouble let it be me, Dottie Donnie Mason, who will come to their rescue.